Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend and ready to start the week. As usual, this is the time that if you've got questions, comments, concerns, things have gone well, things have gone poorly, please share those because everybody on the call will benefit from those comments, questions, and hurdles if you had them so we can overcome them for you. So as I go through our today's pointer, if you've got any questions or concerns, please type them in or raise your hand so you can talk. And guys, again, I would love to have guys on the call that wear headsets that would be willing to participate in these calls and ask questions, etc. That would be fantastic if you're willing to do that. So, but other than that, Missy, I'm going to go ahead with the pointer, and if we have a question just come or just grab me afterwards, okay?
Sure, sounds good.
Super. Our pointer for the week is proof on why our system works so well. A 2011 survey by Cerulli Associates. Again, this is a research firm that works with a lot of high net worth advisors, and they do a ton of research, so I follow them very closely. Oh, Missy, can you mute yourself? Oh, thanks. The first bullet is 31% of investors weren't sure. They did a study or research to find out how many investors knew how many fees they were paying. 31% of investors were not sure how their advisors were compensated. 33% thought that they didn't pay for their service at all. So, guys, why do you think they thought they didn't pay for their service at all? What do you think their advisors told them where these people would think, hey, I'm not paying for the service at all? And this is a huge problem that advisors invite themselves to. If we ever run across one of these advisors, and again, so that means 33%, it means that 1 in 3 advisors we're going to do this, and they're easy to take apart and to have their clients want to leave them faster than a son of a gun. So what do they say to their clients? And again, I've seen advisors do this over and over and over again. Why do these people think that they're not paying for the service? Because what does the advisor tell them? So somebody type that in there. See, what they're saying is what? No load funds? I wish that was the case, Rick. That's not the case. Because if it's truly no load funds, then the advisor truly is working for free. How many advisors out there, guys, you think are working for free? None. So here's what the advisors say. They'll say, and I used to do this. I was the biggest guilty of this just like everybody else. Oh, you'll never pay me because the funds will pay me. You'll never pay me because the insurance company pays me. Really? Is that really the truth, guys? I mean, it's certainly a way that we could paint the picture, but is that true? That they're not actually paying for? Because if they weren't actually paying for it, what kind of a well, Jeff, let me ask you a question. If that was true that they weren't really getting paid and the client wasn't paying for them, that the companies were actually paying them, then how would the products look different from what the products actually look like?
Well, if the companies were actually paying, then at least on the insurance side, they wouldn't have as high as caps, or they'd have to take it from somewhere.
Yeah. And what would the surrender charges look like?
They'd be a lot higher.
No, if the company was paying for the if the company
sure.
yeah.
Well then,
yeah. So if
then you wouldn't have any surrender charges.
We wouldn't have any surrender charges because you know what? You don't have to pay me at all because the company's paying. No, if that was true, then there would be no surrender charges because the company, you're not really getting paid, and the company is not really out anything if the client wants to get out. So 33% think they don't pay for service, and here's the sad thing: the rest don't even know how much they're paying. So they didn't find a single person who knew how much they're paying in fees. So how does that help us with our system? What's one of the issues that we cover? Cover fees in the way we cover them. Because if you cover fees and say the guy's got to get paid, nobody works for free, so of course there's going to be fees in there. And I don't care how high the fees are, they would say stuff like that, Jeff. They would say, well, he's got to get paid, nobody works for free. Why were they saying that, Jeff?
Well, because they wanted to justify their choice, their pick of the advisor, their pick of that investment.
Yeah. So they weren't really justifying the fees, they were justifying what?
Their decision.
Yeah. And if we keep hammering the fees, what are we saying about their decision?
That they make poor decisions.
And that really helps me sell a lot, doesn't it? So the fact is, guys, fees are an excellent issue to hit, but you got to hit them in the way that we do. And when we start to cover fees, we have a saying that we go over with the people. We say, because we've already covered a lot of different issues with the fees, we're getting right to the jugular with the fees. Because this is proof that their guy is not telling them things that put them in a worse position and their guy in a better position. And this is the first place they're going to really see, wow, my guy is screwing me. And it's the first place they're really going to have a hard knee-jerk reaction to protecting their guy, or as Jeff pointed out, their decision-making process. So we always say, folks, you know, the next thing I want to cover, I need to ask you a question first. Are you the kind of person that likes things straight, or do you like things sugar-coated? And what do they say? 100% of the time, do you think, guys? Because this is right prior to this covering fees. We'll say, are you the kind of person that likes things straight, or do you like things sugar-coated? They always say straight, straight, straight. Exactly right, Mickey and Rick. Straight, 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 straight. Why do you think, Mickey and Rick, why do you think we ask that question? Or why do you think we put that out there? It's because we don't want them to kill the messenger. Because this is really in their face. You're being screwed. I mean, some of these VAs, when you go through the management fees, the turnover fees, the insurance fees, the M&E fees, when you go through that, some of these variable annuities are 5% plus fees. So when you cover that, they look like complete, utter fools when you cover that. So you need to get their permission. Do you like things straight, or do you like things sugar-coated, or do you want things sugar-coated? Because you're just about to show them that this is really bad. And that prevents them from attacking you, because they said, no, I want it straight. And when we present it that way, we want to really emphasize that this is not about them and their decision-making process. It's about the advisor and his decision-making process. Okay? So fees are an excellent thing to cover, because you see 100% of people either don't know how their advisors are compensated, or think they don't pay anything for the service, and the rest don't know how much they're paying. So that's why it's so important to cover the fees, but you have to do it in the right manner. So any questions or comments on that before we get into our real topic today? Okay? Oh, wait, here we go. As insurance only, are we at risk about talking about brokers' fees? We actually have, if you contact me afterwards, we have a magazine article that actually covers that particular issue, Steve. So if you're insurance only, guys, go ahead and contact support, and we'll get you that magazine article. It talks about what you can and can't talk about as an advisor. And it ends up you can talk about fees, but you're walking the line. But if that's the case, again, we have guys that are insurance only that do fantastic with our system. But it's just something in today's environment, I always encourage you to at least explore the possibility of becoming an RIA if that concerns you. The insurance guys I work with that are doing really well, they've looked at the rules, looked at what they can and can't, and they said, you know what, I think I'm fine, and they're able to do it. But again, I can't give you you have to read the rules and see what you are comfortable doing. A lot of our insurance guys do it. Some of the insurance guys don't do it. What they emphasize if they don't do the fees then is the tax savings, because as an insurance only guy, you can do the tax savings portion. So some of the insurance guys do cover the fees. Some of them only cover the taxes. You're going to have to make a personal decision, but that's really a reason for you to consider looking at, if that's something that concerns you, to look at becoming an RIA down the road. So. But we have an article we can send you, Steve, on exactly the what you can and can't do. So, any other questions or concerns before we go forward here? Okay. So we're going to talk about the do-it-yourselfer, because we treat do-it-yourselfers differently than we treat normal clients. But let me see some polling here. How many do-it-yourselfers do you see as compared to people with advisors? Do you think most people with money are do-it-yourselfers? Do you think most people and I shouldn't say C, because that's the whole problem. That whole thing about 13 versus 87%, Jeff, I've talked to advisors at times where they say, most of the people I'm seeing, and again, this is when we're asking them, when we're talking to people who are considering coming on the system, they'll say, well, most of the people I'm seeing are do-it-yourselfers. I mean, have you ever heard that, Jeff?
Sure, I've heard that, yeah.
And so, guys, I can imagine that might be the case. Why do you think these are people looking at coming onto the 5Q system? Aren't you doing the Take Your Brain for a Jog event? Instead of doing the classic postcard lead generation, or doing the classic financial seminar, and they're telling me, no, most of the people I see are do-it-yourselfers. Why do you think that might be the case? Why are they seeing? Because think about this. Do most people with money have, are most people with money have advisors? Which one? Which one, guys? Let's see a little tally. Do you think most people with money have advisors? And Jim's saying yes. Exactly, and I agree. In fact, I don't have to agree. The statistics are it's about 27% of people with money do it yourself, and so 3/4 of them have advisors. So if you're mostly seeing people that are do-it-yourselfers, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all, because if you're using financial seminars, financial postcards, learn how to do this, learn how to lawyer your taxes, learn how to do, I'm going to teach you how to do this, I'm going to teach you how to do that, learn. Who are you talking to? Do-it-yourselfers and people with no money, because people who have advisors aren't worried about that kind of stuff. They think their advisor's taking care of that stuff for them. So if you're seeing a ton of do-it-yourselfers, it has to do with your marketing, not reality, because 3/4 of people have advisors. But do you still run into people that do-it-yourselfers? Yeah, all the time. So there's two different types of do-it-yourselfers. So let's look at those. There's the single do-it-yourselfer, and the reason he's doing it is because what? And there's the couple. But let's talk about the single do-it-yourselfer. How many single do-it-yourselfers do you think I want to work with? So let's see. People put in a lot or none. Single do-it-yourselfers. How many? 0. Mickey says. Exactly right, Mickey. 0 do-it-yourselfers. Single do-it-yourselfers. Why? And I see this all the time. And Jeff, get your feedback on this. But I see guys all the time say, "Well, I'm working with this do-it-yourselfer because he's got $2.5 million. He just wants info, Mickey. You're exactly right. So how many times? And Jeff, you do a lot of the case analysis for help. How many times do you run across in a year, or do you ever in a year run across somebody who says, it's a do-it-yourselfer, but he's got $2.5 million?
Yeah, I run into that. They know the likelihood of getting them is really slim because they've been listening to us for a long time, but still tempted by the amount of money to try and go after it.
And guys, what do you think the problem is going after that anyways? You're not the first guy. This guy has picked their brain. And I think I'm pretty good in front of a client, and I will walk away from them because I know that I've got a 10% chance of getting it and a 90% chance of not getting it. And what's the problem with going ahead and taking them through the process just in case it's that 10% case? Just in case you're that lucky guy who this guy has talked to a dozen other guys in his lifetime who loves to do it himself, and then magically he's going to give you a bone. First of all, they never give you all the money, right? So they give you $10,000 to see what you're going to do. But what's the problem with doing all the work for a single do-it-yourselfer? Even though you know you're probably not going to get the money. What's the problem with that? The problem with that is dignity. And I just talked to a guy, spoils your attitude, Pam, you're exactly right. It spoils your attitude. It's about dignity. I just talked to a guy 2 weeks ago who said he feels like, and pardon my French, but this is what he said. He says he feels like a whore. And I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, I feel like I'm doing all this work for free, that the clients are using me. And guys, when you think about it, that kind of relationship, is that one way or two way? Does it take two people to tango? The only way somebody can use you if you allow yourself to be what? The only way somebody can use you is if you allow yourself to be what, guys? Used. Exactly, Mickey. So if everybody's saying use, you're exactly right. So if I'm dealing with a single do-it-yourselfer, what's the chances I know I'm going to be used? Way high. And as Pam said earlier, it hurts your dignity to work with those people. I don't. I kick them out. And here's the funny thing about this system, and Jeff, tell me if this ever happened to you when you're coaching the guys. Rarely do I get a guy that calls me up and says, Mike, I just closed a $2 million case. I mean, that happens. And you think that would be the thing they'd call and say, Mike, I just closed a $2 million case. That is not why they call me. I get a guy calling just giddy. He's just giddy because he says, Mike, I just kicked a guy with $2 million out of my office. That's when they call me and they're excited. Why do you think they'd be more excited about kicking a guy out with $2 million than closing a case for $2 million? It's not that they're not excited about closing a case for $2 million, but you think that would be more likely to be I got to tell somebody this. Instead, they call me up and say, I just kicked a guy out with $2 million. Why do you think? Eric says, very empowering. Energy savings, yes. And Eric, you hit it on the head. It's very empowering. For the first time in your life, you feel like I'm in charge. I can't be used. These people need me more than I need them. It's extremely empowering. And when to see the face of that do-it-yourselfer that has $2 million when you kick him out of your office, and again, we do it politely, but we still kick him out of the office, to see the look on their face, you're like, wow. been in the industry for 20 years. I've never seen that look before because that guy is shocked. Because what has every other advisor to this day done when he walks in and shows them those account records? Because those guys love to show you their account records. They love to show you how much money they have. And what has every other advisor to date done when he showed them those accounts? Yeah, they try to get him. Not only try to get him, they chase him and they bow to him and they drool, Jim. You're right. And you're the first person that says, you know what, seems like you're doing a great job. Take a hike. Now, that's why we don't want to work with a single do-it-yourselfer. Occasionally, I will get a single do-it-yourselfer that I will work with. And that's a guy that's like this. He's given up. He comes in and you can tell he is defeated. He's like, I lost money in 1999 when the market crashed. I lost money in 2008 when the market crashed. I am done with this. I cannot do this. I want to go fishing. I want to play golf. I am washing my hands of it. Take it all. Take it all. I am done with this. Now, will I take that single do-it-yourselfer? What do you think? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Everybody's saying yes. I would work with that do-it-yourselfer because he's washed his hands. But will I work with a do-it-yourselfer? Says, I'm really wondering if I can do this. So I'm looking for somebody to take, to try out. Will I work with that guy? Nope. You're exactly right, Mickey. No. Because all he's doing is fishing. He's told how many guys that same thing. No, the only single do-it-yourselfer I work with is somebody who says, I am done. Take it all. I never want to see these accounts again. Just take care. That one guy will. But said, I'd possibly be looking. No, he said that to everybody. So that's a single do-it-yourselfer. Now with couples, I always go after the couples do-it-yourselfers. I always go after, and I get about 50% of them, which is about the same as what I get with everybody else. But with couples, I treat them differently. I'm going to go for a specific dollar amount. I'm going to get their agreement for a specific dollar amount. And here's why I'll go after a couple. Because the funny thing is, with couples, do both of them take care of the money, or does only one take care of the money, guys? Oh, here, I got a question here. What would you say to escort him out? Oh, with the single do-it-yourselfers, all I'm going to do is I've identified them as a do-it-yourselfer. I'm going to quickly go look at their stuff. So it takes me about 5-10 minutes to look at their stuff. 5, really. And I'm going to give them a few and say, oh, you know what, you should probably look at getting your power of attorney updated. You should probably do this, that, the other thing. I write it down on a yellow pad, give them a few suggestions, thank you for coming in, and say, boy, you've done a great job. So I basically just give them a few pointers, write it down on a yellow pad, things they can do to improve what they're doing, and then I send them on their way and say, you've done a great job. I don't think I can really help you out in any other way. And they love it. They think it's fantastic because, you know what, do-it-yourselfers are convinced that they walk on water when it comes to doing these things. So when you just give them a few helpful suggestions, like update your power of attorney, it should be updated every year. Take a look at doing this, take a look at doing that, and then say, I think everything else is in great order. I think you're doing a great job. And then you say, stand up and say, so I wish you great luck. If you ever need any help, just give me a holler. So it's about a 20-minute appointment. Does that make sense, Mickey? Oh, he says, okay, good. So, because I'm not going to be angry at the single do-it-yourselfer. I'm not going to say, get the hell out of my office. I've made a decision. This is not something I can work with. So if there's anything, a couple, in a quick glance, look at their stuff. If there's something I can help them out with, boom, write it down, jot, and then say, I think everything else is doing great. Hand it to them and get them out. So, but with the couple, do both people manage the money? When it comes to a couple do-it-yourselfers, do they both get together and, it's date night. It's date night tonight. Let's look at our accounts and let's see if we can come up with some good investment strategies. Is that how it works? Or is only one person taking care of the money? Yeah, only one, exactly. The one person handles the money. The other person handles the family. And I'm going to be, just to make explanations easy here, it's generally, not always, I've seen it the opposite way, but it's generally the man takes care of the money and the woman takes care of the family. And I've seen it completely opposite. I've seen where the woman takes care of the money and the man takes care of the family. But in generalities, the man takes care of the money and the woman takes care of the family. But here's the funny thing. Do you think the woman, and I will swear to this, over and over and over I saw this, do you think the woman's completely comfortable with her husband handling all the money? Do you think the woman is completely, no, Mickey, you're exactly right. She is not comfortable with him handling all the money. But does she feel like she knows enough to stand up to him on that? See, if you're not, no, exactly right. Yep, nope, again. So exactly right, because here's the thing. If you know somebody's doing something incorrectly, but you don't know, for example, let's say you're out on a boat and the motor's not starting, but this guy's been boating forever. you've never boated before, but you know a bit about engines, but his motor won't start, and do you feel like you're comfortable enough to tell him why he's doing something wrong? You might think he's doing something wrong, but do you really feel comfortable telling him he's doing something wrong? Because he's been doing this forever. And you don't know nearly as much about boating as he does, so you're going to feel uncomfortable challenging him on that. So these women are not, in again, generalities, these women are not comfortable with their husbands managing the money, but they don't feel they're knowledgeable enough to challenge them on that. So if you throw them a lifeline, they can finally get somebody who's a professional to help them out. Guess how much, and again, if you do it properly, if you don't do it properly, it won't work. But if you throw them a lifeline saying, hey, there is a professional who can help you out, how hard do you think they're going to grab that lifeline that you throw to the women or the person who doesn't take care of the money? Man, they grasp that. They become your best advocate because they're like, finally, I'm going to get somebody in here who knows what the hell they're doing because I don't really think Frank knows what he's doing. So we're able to leverage that. And you're going to see through here, through the script, and how we do that. So for a couple, I will go after it, but I'm going to get their commitment for a specific dollar amount, and we'll talk about how what dollar amount that is here in a second. And then I find that she will glom onto that dollar amount, and she will back me up to the hilt, and I will get that money. So if I decided to go through this, well, I said I get 50% of the do-it-yourself couples. I get 90% of them. Because 50% of the do-it-yourself couples I will kick out of the first meeting just like I kick out 50% of everybody else. But of the 50% do-it-yourself couples that I get to commit at that first meeting to a specific dollar amount, I will close 90% of them, okay, with this script. So, Jeff, anything to add before I go on?
No, I mean, you just have to know, so much of this is knowing what you're going to do. Later at the disclosure meeting and at the implementation meeting, so you just have to handle them a little bit differently. And a lot of times the calls that I get are, well, I've got this do-it-yourselfer and we're, getting ready to do, the disclosure meeting or the implementation meeting, but I don't think I did the agreement meeting right. What can I do? You can't do anything. I mean, you can't go back in time. I mean, you just have to take your lumps and
do your best you can.
Do it right next time.
Yeah.
This is important to know because you will run into these people and you can't go back and do it over. So you got to do it right the first time. And so you're not going to be able to do it if you don't have it in your mind how you handle them differently. So just be aware that they need to be handled differently, and Mike's going to show you how.
And then Neil says, how do you determine how many dollars you're going to look for? Basically, it's on how much I take for a minimum client. So I started out, when I first started the 5Q and started to make more and more money, when I first started that, I was $50,000. So you have to commit to at least $50,000. And then it went up to $75,000. Then it went up to $100,000. And when I finally, at the end, I was asking for $125,000. So you have to commit to at least $125,000. So it's based on the minimum client, the minimum size client you're willing to take, and you'll see how we work that into the script here in a second. So, Jeff, I've seen people say 50, and I've seen people say 200, haven't you?
Yep.
And everywhere in between. So there's no right answer. It's what you're willing to take on. If you're going to do the work, how much money are you willing to work for? Does that make sense, Neil? Also, what cues alert you to do-it-yourselfers that you should fire? Well, like I said, if they're single, they're basically fired. If they're single, they're fired. Because I'm not going to work with them. Because unless they tell me they're washing their hands and I'm not a do-it-yourselfer anymore, do-it-yourselfing is the stupidest thing you ever ran into for when it comes to money, I'll work with them, but that's rare. I'd find one or two of those a year at the most. When I'm seeing 200-300 people a year, one or two at most. Almost all, 99.9% of single do-it-yourselfers are people that are not going to work. I'm not going to work with. As far as the, if you're asking Neil, how do I know what do-it-yourselfers I should fire if they're a couple? It's if he won't commit to the dollar amount. Well, I don't know. So I say, and you see when I get to the script, when I come to the dollar amount, they say, so would you be willing to work with, not all of your money, but would you be willing, if I found a good home for $100,000 of your assets, again, it has to be a good home, and but if it was a good home, would you be willing for me to manage $100,000 of your assets? Well, I don't know. I think we'd have to start with a lot less than that. That would be somebody that I wouldn't move forward with. See, if they won't commit, it's the same thing as with regular people with advisors. At the end, with a little secret close, if they won't commit, they're out. And with the do-it-yourselfers, if they won't commit to the dollar amount, they're gone. That's how I determine the 50% I'm going to kick out as far as couples. Does that make sense, Neil? Good. So we got these two types. The singles are kicked out, so we're going to talk about how we deal with the couples. Now, the do-it-yourself formula is going to take the place of the loyalty versus unconditional love, the fair versus unfair, and the little secret close that we work with people with advisors. Because of course we can't ask, do you unconditionally love yourself? I mean, so the way we use the unconditional love is with, do you unconditionally love your advisor? There is no advisor there, so we're not going to have that conversation. Fair versus unfair. We're not going to say, would it be fair to take this back to yourself? I mean, so all of this stuff goes away. Instead, we use the do-it-yourself formula instead of the loyalty versus unconditional love, the fair versus unfair, and the little secret. So everybody get that? With do-it-yourselfers, this takes the place of those three entities. Now, some people say, well, then how am I going to, and Jeff kind of alluded to this, how am I going to deal then with the second meeting, the disclosure meeting? How can I attack their advisor when they don't have an advisor? That's a conversation for a different call, but essentially what we do with the do-it-yourselfer is we attack the entity they're working with. If they're working with TD Ameritrade, we attack TD Ameritrade the same way, or have them attack TD Ameritrade. Remember, they have to say all the bad things about their advisor, but we have them say bad things about TD Ameritrade, or Scottrade, or Vanguard no-load funds. For example, if we're doing the beneficiaries, we'd say, so, do you think everybody at Vanguard doesn't love their grandchildren? No, I assume if I lined up 100 people who had grandchildren at Vanguard and said, do you love your grandchildren, how many would they, well, they would all say that. So isn't it interesting that when they sent out the beneficiary forms, that would have you disinheriting the grandchildren? Why do you think that might have happened? Because do you think it would cost any more postage to send you out the right forms? No. Would it have cost them any more paper costs to send you out the right forms? No. Would it cost them any? So we use the no-load entity or the whatever entity they're using as quote-unquote the advisor. We turn the institution into a human being advisor. Does that make sense to everybody? So you don't worry about the fact that we're not that you're not going to have anybody to attack at the second meeting. You are. You're going to do the second meeting the exact same way, but you're going to use the institution that the people are working with as the quote-unquote advisor. Does that make sense to everybody, or anybody not get what I'm talking about there? Again, that's not what this call is about, but I want you to not feel afraid that you're going to, the disclosure meeting is not going to work for you with do-it-yourselfers. Okay, everybody says makes sense. Good. Okay, so do-it-yourselfers, we replace the loyalty, the fair versus unfair, and little secret with this script I'm going to go through. And the formula is this. First of all, we're going to compliment them. And guess how that goes over? Guess how much do-it-yourselfers love for you to tell them how smart they are and how great they've managed those investments and how much better they did than if they had an advisor. Do you think they like that or don't like that? They love it. Exactly, Eric. And then we're going to say, but the question I have for you is, you're going to go in competition with me. Are you going to hang up a shingle and go in competition with me? No, they're going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. They say, well, and can I guess that the real reason you came is not because you need my help, Frank. It's because, you know what, do we all share jobs or duties in our family? Do we both do I and my wife both go grocery shopping and both of us take out the garbage and both of us no, we don't. We each have jobs. We both have the responsibilities that we take that make the household run. So I'm assuming who takes care of the money here? And Frank goes, I pretty much do that. Yeah, so Mary, but you're probably doing a lot of other things that are important, right? So you have to address Mary and make sure she feels that you know that she's a valuable person to this partnership as well. But we're going to get to the commitment is that only one person manages the money. And then I'm going to lay it, and you're going to see how I do this, but I'm going to make sure that I'm going to engage Mary and throw her that lifeline for her to grab onto. And we'll go through how we do this here in a second, but I'm basically going to say, so the real reason, Frank, is not because you need any help. It's because you want to make sure, and Mary, you want to make sure that if something happens to Frank, if he's run over by the proverbial bus, now we don't want that to happen, but if he is, that you have somebody you've already started to work with that you trust, that they know how they work and everything. I mean, so Frank, you're not here for yourself. You're here to make sure if something happens to you that Mary's taken care of. Isn't that right? Now, what's Frank going to say to that without looking like a bum? So you'll see that how we work that in. Then I'm going to say, well, see, I treat you because you're not going to go in competition with me. Because the real reason here is not for yourself, but because you're here for your spouse. I treat you differently than all the other brokers out there. See, if you have a broker, I require you to move all the money. Why? I require you to move all the money because if I didn't do that, you could share all my information. If you had an advisor and I showed you how to do all these things, you're going to have to let the other advisor know what you're doing. So I've just shared all my secrets with you, and you're going to have to share them with your advisor. So I'm giving my competition all of my secrets. I can't do that. So I require you to move all your money if you have an advisor. But because you don't have an advisor, guess what? You only have to move a certain amount. And then I go through an explanation of why, and we'll go through this here, on why they need to move a certain amount. And guess what? It does not have to do with me. It does not have to do with my greed. It does not have to do with the fact that I think I deserve it. You're going to see how I deal with that. It actually makes me look like a hero. And I don't tell them I'm a hero. I'm going to have them tell me that I'm a hero. I'm going to have them tell me why they need to move a certain amount of money. I'm not going to tell them why they have to move a certain amount of money. They're going to tell me why they need to move that certain amount of money, whatever that amount is. And then we're just going to summarize and ask them the proverbial essay question. So they've explained to me why they need to move all that money. Does that make sense to everybody so far? Okay, so you can find this script on the website under the agreement meeting, and it says do-it-yourselfers. So you can find this under do-it-yourselfers. See, I've had situations where both have their own accounts and they manage it separately. Well, then what you're going to do is deal with them as so one of the comments is, I've had situations where maybe it's a second marriage or whatever, or maybe it's a first marriage, but they each have their own and they manage it separately. So if they're both do-it-yourselfers, guys, if they're both do-it-yourselfers, how am I going to treat these two couple? If there's a couple, they both manage their accounts separately, and they're both do-it-yourselfers, then I'm going to treat them as what? A couple do-it-yourselfer or two single do-it-yourselfers? See some answers to that. So everybody get what this gentleman's asking? I have a couple. Okay, Mickey says two, exactly right. Two single. Okay, everybody's saying two single. So in other words, then, what am I going to do with that couple, guys? If it's two single do-it-yourselfers, what will I do with that couple? Let's see if you guys have been paying attention. What am I going to do with them? Boot them both. Exactly, Dale. I'm going to boot them both. See you later, Steven says. Bye, bye, bye. Kick them out. Everybody gets it. Good. So if there's two single do-it-yourselfers, I'm going to kick them both out. They're still single do-it-yourselfers. What if instead that they have it's a couple and they both have advisors, but they manage their accounts separately, but they've chosen to work with two separate advisors? Well, then how will I treat them? The same way I treat everybody else. They go through the system the exact same way. The little secret clause, the fair versus unfair, the loyalty versus unconditional love, and if they at the end give me the commitment that yes, if you can do the things you're going to say you're going to do, I will move the money, then we move forward. So really, they're not treated any differently than I would treat anybody else. They're treated the exact same way. It's just that I'm seeing two appointments at the same time. So otherwise, they're treated exactly the same. So good question, but did everybody get that then? You just treat them the same way as you treat them regardless of whether they came at the same time. You're just basically doing double duty during that hour. Okay, so the formula for do-it-yourselfers is on the website. So the first thing we're going to do is complement them. So let's see here. So if you want, you can pull this up and as we go through the script and see what we're doing here. So this would happen right after you get to the get invited in portion. You've done the lawnmower story. You said, yeah, I can do that. They've said, yeah, I want you to tell me how to do this. And you say, because I want to make sure, are you in a position in your life where you're able to make changes, or is this more of an academic exercise? No, we're able to make changes. I say, super, because I can do this thing. Sure, I mean, that's great. We found some things that we could do here, but again, it's my job to present them to you, and it's your job to do what? And they're going to say, well, it's our job to make sure they make sense. They say, and if they don't make sense, what should you do? And they say, well, we shouldn't do them. Again, we're constantly giving them an out here. We never try to box in the corner. We're going to say, listen, if things are great, you should keep doing what you're doing. If not, then you should move the money. So we're working into this do-it-yourselfer mentality. So then we continue to say, but so if you don't necessarily want to do them, but you at least want to know about them so you can make kind of a determination to say, sure. So the way I've worked it out is this, is I've worked with you a little bit differently than I'm going to work with everybody else out there. So Jeff, can you just role play this with me maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Jeff, the way I've worked with you is a little bit differently than I work with everybody else out there. So
okay.
You've done quite well, and you've built up a great portfolio here.
Okay.
So now maybe there's a few things you could have done better, but as far as the investment portion, I don't know if you could have done anything better because you've done a fantastic job here.
Okay. Well, thank you.
And I think you're being a little bit modest here as we had this discussion because I mean I've been working with clients for over 25 years, and here's the funny thing is I see people who manage their own money, and I see people who have advisors that manage their money, and I'll tell you that that almost every single, I mean, I could count on the pinkies that I have, the times that when I've looked at the accounts where, and well, let me give you an example. Sometimes I'll see a client that has an advisor managing some of the money, but they keep some money to themselves and they manage it themselves.
Sure.
And every time I've looked at that situation, Jeff, guess which pile of money is doing better? When one person manages some of it themselves and some with an advisor, guess what pile is doing better? The one that's managed by the advisor or the one that the guy manages by themselves?
I would guess the one that they're doing themselves.
So think about this, guys. I'm talking to a do-it-yourselfer. What are they going to say 100% of the time? Any guess? Let's see some answers to that. If I'm working with a do-it-yourselfer and I say a person has money managed by an advisor and managed by themselves, what are they going to say 100% of the time if I lay it out like that? I do better. Do-it-yourselves do better. Exactly. So I've set it up so he says, I do it better. I say, exactly, Jeff. And now I want him to, I'm going to really compliment him and prove that he's right. So why am I going to prove that he's right, guys? If I'm proving that he's right, aren't I just locking myself out of a deal? No. I'm patting him on the back. Because remember, am I going to try to, and this is the big thing that I see advisors do, they try to convince the do-it-yourselfer he's not doing a good job. That you have better ideas than the do-it-yourselfer. He doesn't have the information he needs to make good decisions. Guys, if you want to beat your head against the wall doing that, how much success do you think you're going to have? If you're going to try to convince that do-it-yourselfer, you have guts. You're right, Eric. We need to get on their side, build rapport. Because if my plan with the do-it-yourselfer is try to prove that he's dumb and that I'm smarter, that I have better ideas than him, that I have tools that he doesn't have access to, how far am I going to get with that conversation? Conversation is over. Remember, with the summary I just went through, I'm not going down that route. I'm going to say, hey, you're brilliant. You're just here in case your brilliant mind gets run over by a bus so that Mary has somebody to lean on. So by complimenting them, getting on their side, as Eric says, I'm building that rapport. He knows he can trust me. He's going to listen to what I have to say. So Jeff says, yeah, the person does it by himself. That's exactly right. And why? Why would the person who manages it themselves do a better job than their advisor would?
Well, I mean, they care more. They're going to pay more attention to it. They're going to spend more time on it.
Yeah. All of those things you just said, Jeff. Because, how many clients does that guy have? How many clients does the person have that manages his own accounts? He only has how many clients?
The one that manages his own, probably just himself.
Yeah, himself. He only has one client. But the average broker, how many clients do you think the average broker has?
I think they'd have a lot.
A lot. I've seen brokers with 2,000 accounts. Many have 500, 700 accounts.
Right.
So that means they have to watch how many accounts?
All 700.
Exactly. So how much time do you think they have watching each individual account?
They probably can't watch them individually like that.
Yeah. So, but how much time does the person managing their own account have to manage their account?
As much as it takes, as long as they need to.
Yeah. And I mean they need to make money, so they have all of those accounts. But if he's only spending a few minutes on each account per year, can that hurt the client?
Yeah, it could, absolutely.
Yeah. So you should pat yourself on the back for knowing that, for taking the time and effort, Jeff, to manage your own accounts, to be knowledgeable on it, to know what's out there. Because, when you watch your accounts a lot more closely than anybody else would, wouldn't you? Because who do you think is going to care more about your account, you or your advisor?
Well, I will, for sure.
Absolutely. So as a result, you've done a lot better than most brokers that I've seen. So, I mean, and now that we talked about some other, so you've done a lot of things really well with your investments, haven't you? And really, we've talked about how much better are you going to do than any advisor out there when it comes to your investments?
I think I'm going to do better, at least as well.
And guys, I'll tell you, when I'm doing this, teaching this script to advisors, they cringe at this. They're like, Mike, how are you possibly going to get around this? It's easy, because am I going to argue with him about how great an investment advisor is versus how great I am? If I'm going to try to prove that I'm greater than he is, I'm going nowhere. So I'm not going to go that route. So I can tell him he's the best thing since sliced bread. All I'm saying is if you die, you can't manage these accounts from your grave, so you better have somebody there that manages them for you, and it better be somebody you trust and somebody you've formed a relationship with, because you can't form a relationship with somebody once you're 6 feet under. That's the conversation I'm going to have. So you have no problem with complimenting him and laying it on thick. And guys, do they look at this, Jeff, do you think that they look at this type of patting on the back as flattery? Or do they truly believe that they're that great?
They think they're that good.
Yeah, so they're not going to look at, oh, you're just trying to spread it on. They've never heard an advisor say this before, first of all, because every advisor they met has tried to tell them that, no, I'm smarter than you are. So what we're doing is really laying it on that, that he's a fantastic investment advisor. And say, but as we talked about, I mean, you can't be an expert on everything, can you, Jeff?
No.
So I would say you are an expert when it comes to investing, but there's other things out there like estate planning law. Would you consider yourself an expert on estate planning law?
No, I don't.
Tax law?
No.
I mean, really, the people I've seen that are experts on tax law, guess what the only thing they're experts on?
Tax law.
And people who are experts on estate planning, guess what they're the only thing experts on?
Estate law.
And experts like yourself on investment, guess what they're the only thing that are experts on?
Investments.
Yeah. So you've done a fantastic job in investments, but as we've looked at, there are a few weaknesses in some of the other things. And you want to make sure, do you want to make sure those things are taken care of as well?
Yeah, I want to make sure those things are taken care of. I mean, I'd like to know how those work and what to do.
Yeah, because, you could be the best investor in the world, and we've seen this with some Hollywood stars and stuff, that they've made a lot of money, and then when they die, what happens to all that money?
It's gone.
Because they didn't do the estate planning necessary. Or
Right.
we've seen also, I mean, people like, who's the name of that guy who was Cage. You heard of Nicolas Cage, the actor?
Yep.
And
Didn't pay
there's
his
numerous
taxes,
other ones.
yep.
Yeah, it's taxes. So he wasn't an expert in taxes, was he? You can only be an expert on so many things. So, I mean, I think you're doing a fantastic job when it comes to your investments, but there's some other things that we could probably look and patch in a few holes here, right?
Sure.
So the question I have for you now, we're moving into the next step, which is, are you going to go in competition against me? So I guess the question I have for you, do you plan on hanging up a shingle and going into competition with me, Jeff?
No, I'm not going to do that.
No, and I asked that jokingly, but my point here is, though, you're not going to become my competition, are you?
No.
Yeah, so actually I can share with you things that I don't share with everyone. A lot of people that come to me, they already have an advisor or a broker, and I can't, those people have to commit everything to me. They have to move all their money to me, and the reason being is this: if they leave some of the money with the other advisor, and I share with them all the ideas I have, how to do all these things that I know how to do, they're going to have to share it with their other advisor. I mean, to take the best care of themselves, they're going to be forced to share it with the other advisor because he's got some of their money.
Right.
So guess what I'm doing now? I'm educating my competition. Do you think that's fair for me to educate my competition?
No, I mean, that's not really fair to you.
No, because I spend thousands of dollars a year being a member of a lot of organizations. I spend a week or two away from my family every year just to maintain that education, stay up on these things. And I don't mind educating you because you're not going to go in competition with me. You're the kind of person I help. Clients, I help. But my competitive advisors who do I have any obligation to help them?
No.
No. So I treat you differently because with people who have advisors, I require them to move all of their money, but you're not going to do that. So I don't require you to move all the money. See, I spent a lot of time ever putting this stuff together, but the fact that you're doing your own stuff, I think that's terrific. So can I take a wild stab then? Because you're doing such a good job, now I'm going to move on to the real reason you're here is not for yourself, it's for your spouse. So I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark here. Are you like my household where you see where I have certain responsibilities and my wife Michelle has certain responsibilities? I mean, I take care of the yard work in the garden, and she takes care of the housework and the checkbook. I manage that's a good example. Even when it comes to money, we have different duties. She manages the checkbook, but I manage the actual investments. I mean, is your household kind of like that, Jeff, or do you both go to the grocery shopping together and you both mow the lawn together? You have one hand on it, and she has the other hand on it, or do you both have responsibilities?
No, we both have our responsibilities.
And I'm going to talk to Jeff's wife then. I'm going to say, and Rochelle, I mean, is that the case? Do you both have responsibilities? Because I have to involve her in this conversation. She's going to be my ally here. I need for her to get on board with me. Okay? And so, Rochelle, maybe, and so I was going to say, Michelle, maybe you take care of the household.
Yep, that's how it works.
You got to talk like her, Jeff. You got to go say,
yes, that's how it works.
And so, and that's how it works for Michelle and myself as well. I mean, and it sounds like it works that way for you. So I'm dealing with people that help us. I deal with our landscaper, and Michelle deals with pest control, and I deal with car problems. She deals with the credit card company if we have a problem there. So, I mean, you separate all sorts of duties in your house, I would guess. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and it really doesn't make any sense for us to call pest control together. Or it's a waste of time. So the nice part of that, I mean, that's really the nice part of being married, isn't it? We get to share all those icky duties that none of us like to do. So it cuts those duties in half, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, you're doing a fantastic job managing your money, Jeff, and as well as we pointed out that having an advisor, you're going to do better than advisors out there because it's the only account you're managing. But
Right.
and maybe I shouldn't assume anything, but when it comes to investing, do you both handle the investment portion, or who does most of the exploration and the management of the investments?
Well, I actually handle more of the investments and that kind of thing.
Sure, and that's kind of how it is in my house. But Rochelle, you have other responsibilities, right? Again, I got to get her involved and show her that she's just as worthwhile as Jeff. Does that make sense? I'm not talking to Jeff now. I'm talking to you guys out there. You have to get the spouse involved and say, but her job is just as important. And Rochelle, you've got other jobs. You probably even got more important jobs. Of what? Taking care of the family, making sure things are going smoothly. I mean, do you have other jobs, Rochelle?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a guess here, Jeff. Basically, every person in your situation that have come to see me, they don't really need me. You're doing a fantastic job yourself. Sure, they're interested maybe learning a thing or two, doing things a little bit better, getting more ideas when it comes to the money. But the real reason they're here is to get these other things done we just talked about. But also to start to make sure they're not missing anything tax-wise or estate planning-wise. And really, even when it comes to money, to start to forge a relationship that if something does happen to you, Jeff, that there's somebody to back you up, that knows your likes, desires, that you, Rochelle, could form a relationship with. So, I mean, my guess is, Jeff, you're not really here for yourself. You're just here for good ideas, but also to see if there's somebody that you can trust that if something happened to you, that Rochelle would already have a relationship built up. Am I out to lunch here?
No, I mean that's part of the reason that we're here.
Guys, think about this. What can Jeff say then? What else can Jeff say? I boxed him into a corner. He goes, I really don't give a rat's patootie what happens to Rochelle when I die. I'm only worried about when I'm here. Can he say that? And see, at this point, Rochelle's going, oh my gosh, here's my chance. I finally found somebody who's going to be able to take some control back from my husband when it comes to managing the money. So I'm going to say, so Rochelle, how much do you do when it comes to investing? I mean, are you sitting at the computer when he's doing this? Are you helping him make the trades? Are you reviewing all the different investment choices, etc.?
No, not at all.
so I might be off base here, but aren't you really here, Jeff, for Rochelle?
Yeah, I mean, I want to make sure that if anything happens, that she's able to kind of pick up where I left off.
And the reason I point that out is that because that's the people that work with in your situation. That's exactly what happens. Because if you think about it, who dies first, the man or the wife?
Usually the man, I would guess.
It's wrong. And I haven't been able to prove this yet. I haven't the money to spend on the research yet. But if I had money to spend on the research, I would tell you, it's not the man who dies first. You know who dies first? The person who takes care of the money dies first. Over and over. I've been doing this for 25 years. And guess who always dies first?
Yeah.
I don't care. Because there's some households I meet, Jeff and Rochelle, that the woman takes care of the investing. That's just the way, I mean, everybody has their strengths. And guess who dies first?
Yeah. The person who
knows
what's going on.
My advice, Rochelle, is continue to let Jeff handle the investing. So the real reason you're Jeff is not for yourself. You're doing a great job. It's that if something happens to you, that Rochelle what?
That she'll be okay. That
exactly.
She'll know what's going on and she can kind of keep going with somebody's help.
Yeah. So does that make sense, Rochelle? So yes. So again, the way I work with people such as yourself that are smart enough to do these things themselves without a broker, I mean, you've given me the commitment you're not going to open up a shingle across the street and go in competition with me, haven't you, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, so I treat you different from all the other people out there that have advisors who have to move all their money to me. I don't require you to do that.
Okay.
So what I ask for you is that, again, just to start to forge a relationship is I'm not going to ask to move all investments. All I'm asking, because you're doing a way good job of yourself of doing that, I'm just asking out of the $400,000 you have right now, would you be willing, if I was able to find a good home, not only if, but if I was able to find a good home for $100,000 of that $400,000, would you be willing to move that? Again, if it was a much better position, if it made sense to you, if it met all your parameters, would you be willing to start a relationship, so if something happened to you, that Rochelle had a relationship with somebody she trusted, with $100,000 out of your $400,000? And let me explain to you why it's $100,000, okay? Because at this point they're thinking, whoa, what's Jeff thinking? Jeff, what are you thinking at this point about $100,000?
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I was thinking more like $10,000 to start a relationship. So he started. So before he can even voice that, I'm saying. So the reason Jeff and Rochelle asked for that minimum account size, and the reason that I have that minimum, is because there's only so much time in the day. Is that right?
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, and I've made a commitment to. Now, here's where I'm going to get them to tell Jeff to explain to me and Rochelle to explain to me why $100,000 is reasonable. So, see, I've made a commitment to all my clients when they come on that I'm going to stay on top of things, that I'm going to keep them informed, that I get on the phone and call them when things change. I take very, very good care of them in personal care, very, very personal care, one-on-one, and they come on because I promised that. And so if I make those promises, then I should what, Jeff and Rochelle?
Oh, you should keep them.
Yeah. I mean, I better honor that commitment, or do you think that I should just make those promises and then once they get on, walk away from those commitments?
No, I mean, you have to keep your promises. You have to do what you say.
Yeah. So, and I really take those commitments. I mean, seriously, I honor those commitments. And all my clients have a minimum of $100,000. See, I'm capping my clientele at 300 clients. So I need to, if I've done the math, that if every one of my clients have at least $100,000 with me, I can cap my clients at 300. And with 300 clients, that means I can take the kind of care, do the kind of service, contact them as many times as I've said I'm going to contact. That I can do that with 300. But I've heard of brokers with 2,000 clients. So how much time can they spend with their clients if they have 2,000 clients?
Not much, if any.
Yeah, little if any. So I've capped my practice at 300. See now, and that's why I've done the math. They need to at least all have at least 100,000 for that to work. If I instead said, hey, what if I capped it at 300, if they all have 100,000, but what if I said, oh, we can get, what if I just have clients give me 50,000? Well, how many clients would I then need to have?
I'd double, I guess.
Double. So instead of 300, I need what?
600.
Which means, I mean, do I magically also then double the amount of time I have in the day?
No.
So it means I would spend how much time then with people?
Well, not near as much.
Yeah, basically half as much?
Right.
If I have twice as many clients, I would spend how much time?
Half as much time.
Yeah. So I know what 100,000 sounds like a lot, but in order for me to follow through, now guys, this is a way for me to brag about how I take care of my clients without it sounding like me bragging about taking care of my clients. Instead, I'm making Jeff brag about how I take care of my clients. So I know it sounds a lot, Jeff, but in order for me to follow through with my clients and the agreement that I have with them and how much I'm going to take care of them and how much time I'm going to spend with them and how much time I'm going to watch their accounts, I guess that's why I come up with that 100,000. So that's why I ask if I was able to find a better home for 100,000, but again, only if it made sense. If it's not meet your parameters, you shouldn't do it. But if I was able to find a home that met those parameters, would you be willing to part with 100,000 out of $400,000, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, if it meets our parameters and it makes sense to do it, yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have to meet those parameters, and you're going to have to understand it, and you're going to have to. It's going to have to put you in a better position. I mean, it would be only other thing. But if you were, would you be willing to make that kind of commitment if I met all that criteria?
Yeah, if you meet that criteria, sure.
And yeah, and why would it make sense? I mean, you've been doing this yourself a long time. Now I'm going to go into summary, guys. And why would it make sense, Jeff? Because I'm going to make him give me an essay answer, not a yeah. A yeah is worth diddly. I'm going to make him actually verbalize out loud between him and his wife why it makes sense. Yeah, and why would that make sense, Jeff? If again, only if we found something that really fit your parameters would it make sense for you to start with $100,000 just so you out of the $400,000 based on the things we've talked about. Why would that make sense to do that? Because you've been doing a great job with your money up to this point. So why would it make sense to part with $100,000 out of the $400,000 at this point?
Well, I mean, we want to make sure we have all the estate planning and all the tax work done and make sure it's right, and we want to make sure that Rochelle's taken care of, and if anything were to happen to me.
So do you think that based on that agreement we could move forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I've got that commitment of $100,000. If Jeff tries to waffle, and he may try to waffle at the end, and say, well, here's 25. I've got a CD coming due. Here's $25,000. Let's start with that. Guess what Rochelle's going to jump in and say, and I've seen it happen over and over and over again. Guess what Rochelle's going to say? Because I'm going to say when he tries to do that, oh, yeah, I think $25,000 is a great place to start. And remember, Jeff, again, I'm talking about at the third meeting, after we've looked at what our recommendations are. At the third meeting, he tries to waffle out of that commitment now with the $25,000. So, yeah, $25,000 is a great place to start. And remember when we first began this, did I want all of your money? No, because you're doing a great job managing money. What we're talking about is what? $100,000 out of the $400,000, so $25,000. That's great. We're still looking for another $75,000. Where do you think, based on the things that we've covered, would make sense to tap the rest? And if he tries to waffle on that, guess what Rochelle's going to jump in and do? No, Jeff. You said $100,000, and I've seen it happen over and over and over again. The wife jumps to my rescue. Why do you think the wife's jumping to my rescue, guys? Let's see some answers. Why do you think the wife's jumping to my rescue? She's been waiting for this for years. She wants somebody to help Jeff manage the money. And now she's finally got that person there. She doesn't want to lose that. Also, what are all the things? The first 40 minutes we cover of the disclosure meeting are about what? Money or family? The first 40 minutes of the disclosure meeting, are we covering things about money or family? Guys, what are we covering? Money or family? Family. So, Eric, you're exactly right, family. So she wants that stuff. And she knows that if Jeff waffles on this point, guess what's going to happen to all that stuff? Because guess who still has that proposal and all those suggestions in his hot little hand? I do. Guess who's not going to get that if Jeff waffles on this commitment? They are not going to get it. So she wants this thing to go through because she wants me to help them manage the money. She wants all those things related to family. She wants this thing to happen. She will stand up for you. She will become your biggest advocate at that point. And guess what? What Mama wants, Mama what? Gets. So, does that make sense, guys? Does this help understand better what we're doing with the do-it-yourself formula and how to handle do-it-yourselfers? Good. Good. So it may be a little bit different than what you're currently handling them, but guys, don't just go through do-it-yourselfers hoping you're going to get the money. Handle it this way, and you're going to find that your job gets a lot easier. You're going to do a lot less work and bang your head against the wall a lot less with these do-it-yourselfers that milk you. And you're going to end up closing do-it-yourselfers that before you would have never have gotten. Okay? So any questions before I let you go? Excellent. Then I hope you all have a fantastic week. Jeff is going to be doing the call next week. I will be on the road. I'm going to try to get on by my cell phone. But Jeff will be handling the call. And don't miss it. It's on bonds and how to deal with bonds. It's an extremely important call. Okay? So we'll all talk to you next week. Have a good week, guys.
Hey, Mike.
Oh, wait. Yep.
There is one question that just came in. Dale asked, would asking them what their after-tax and after-fees return is and then compare it to the IRR of in a good life insurance policy in a non-confrontational way, and how easy is it?
Guys that are still on the call didn't get off. What is wrong with that question, guys? At the first meeting, what is wrong with that question? What is Dale doing at this point? And Dale, you're fairly new, so I'm not going to jump on you, but let's see if anybody else that knows the system can tell what the problem with that is. At the first meeting, what is our product, not the right time. He's selling. The first meeting, there should not be a single product discussed, suggestion, talking about how bad something is or how good something is. The first meeting is not about product. If you try to sell at the first meeting, you just identified yourself as a what, guys? Salesman. Guess what they already have in their life? A salesman. Guess what they don't need another one in their life? A salesman. So yes, everything is wrong with that. How about the second meeting? Should we be doing any comparison between one investment versus another investment at the second meeting, at the disclosure meeting, guys? Let's see if you know that. No. What is the purpose of the second meeting, guys? See, come on, guys. What's the purpose of the second meeting? Divorce, disclosure, and to get them to divorce their current guy. We do no comparison of one investment to another investment until when? They've left their other guy. If you do any selling, any comparison, any product recommendations prior to them leaving their guy hating their guy, never wanting to see their guy again, guess what's going to happen to any suggestion you make? If it's a good suggestion, what will they do with that information, guys? If you give that, they'll take it to their other guy. Exactly. They'll take it to their other guy. Keep your eye on the ball. The reason for the first meeting is to get them to commit. That's the close. The first meeting is the close. Will you leave your guy? 50% will say no. 50% will say yes. That's all we're doing there. No product. Second meeting. All we're doing, is the second meeting about bashing the product? No. Is it about telling them how bad their product is? No. We never tell them any of their product's bad. We never say their guy's bad. All we say is, here's what you have. What do you think about that? So the second meeting is strictly about getting them to say, my guy has been screwing me, without us saying it. We don't say a bad word about it. It's for them to say it. It's only at that point that we'll do any product recommendations or product comparisons. So, Dale, you hit a hot button there for me. So, but it's great to see how many people here are giving the right answers, and hopefully that helps, Dale. No, no, no. If you try to sell at the first meeting, you're going to have a 10% closing ratio. If you try to sell at the second meeting, you're going to have a 10% closing ratio. The only way you're going to make the kind of money that I made, the only way you're going to make the kind of money that the dozen guys I taught to make $1 million a year, and the hundreds of guys I taught to double their income, is if you do not sell at the first meeting, if you do not sell at the second meeting, you only sell after they have agreed they're going to leave their guy, and if they saw that guy walking on the side of the road, they wouldn't stop to pick him up even if he's in the middle of the Sahara Desert, then you can offer product. Yeah, it's a hard lesson to go through, but you're right. So great question. Thank you for bringing it up, and that's my spirited answer to that question, and it's a pleasure to see how many guys actually get that. That's terrific. Any other questions before I let you guys go?
That looks like everything.
Super. Thanks, guys. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.